There are not many similarities in the stories told in art and those told in words, but there are some. Perhaps it could be said that each world that's created by a painter and that by, say, a novelist has to be met halfway by any audience. For when reading a great novel, I may be told the story, prompted how it looks, but I create the world. I picture the places, the people, the interactions. If I watch a film adapted from a book, it's never my world that I see on screen. Just how when I see a great painting, I make the narrative. I feel the emotions. I conceive any concept. If I read a critic's interpretation or even the artist's intention, it's very rarely my initial emotional reaction that they describe. And yet, in an age where all information is at our fingertips, the desire to understand, to gather context and specifically a general consensus on any value is huge. It seems we listen more than ever to critics, to public comments, to reviews, which may well work as a consensus on kettles and cars, but seems pretty useless when it comes to art, as in doing so you lose the beauty of filling in this space ourselves, whether that's highly individual. I mean, you think your kid's stick drawing of your family home has the same value to a stranger, or collectively across humanity and time, and your unique life experiences that, as unfathomable as it may seem, have been felt before and bottled into great artworks of the past. In an age now dominated by visual media, it's easy to forget that visual art, in the still form of a carved or painted image, used to be a cornerstone of cultural storytelling. A film or a video may be creative to make, yet so often, just as you are watching this one now, it's much more passive. You don't bring a lot of yourself to it. And the proliferation of media like this, which means we have gained a lot, we've learnt a lot, we've heard a lot, we've felt a lot, yet we have lost some of that uniqueness that comes from trudging ourselves out blindly halfway to meet the art without your peers, without context, without any external experience other than your private, personal reaction. I think as a result of this kind of collective comparison, we have gained a sort of uniform arrogance of art. We can't seem to now even imagine how the same piece may feel for different people. Say, for example, you don't really get why anyone was ever drawn to the paintings of Rothko, his expansive canvases of what you may see as not very much. You can, in good faith, go online and pull up a painting, say, Number 7, Dark Over Light, and decide that people were mad to ever see value in it. That's fine. But you can no longer walk into a dark, converted chapel when it was first painted in 1957 in America, carrying the blind, uncertain and heavy baggage that were the first days of the Vietnam War, as the radios rumbled on about increasingly devastating hydrogen bomb testing off the coast of your country, and be confronted with that near 3 meter high looming presence of oppressive, crushing blackness above a lonely horizon of light just at your outline, and decide that that emotional experience is the same as yours as you Google Rothko while having a shit on your lunch break on a 2-inch wide phone screen. From since way before Dada to modern day bananas taped on walls, the only thing easier than challenging any meaning in art is to criticise those who do. It bores me to death, but is it art? Is asked in every generation, and the answer is always yes. Yes, it is. But the very beauty of art is that it's an unboxable concept. In a world full of objective value, comparison and criticism, its very draw is that it sits aside, uniquely, individually valued. For better or worse, you can have the least talented, money-backed, Academy darling produce the most anger-inducing nonsense to critical acclaim, just as any living soul can pick up a pencil and produce for the very first time with the appropriate accolade of now being an artist. And this wonderful subjectivity annoys only those who let art world sales signify value. And yet I hope, as much as monetary evaluations fall apart in the face of family or nature or time with friends, you hold as much or as little value to art as you see as appropriate. But I understand. Professional artists do need to sell work to survive, and when tax-avoiding institutions and investors and asset-collecting curators inflate artworks to the millions, it does devalue the concept of art that I'm trying to defend here. And among the general population, it's a tale as old as time that what generates more interest than controversy? And what's more controversial in art than something that angers the status quo? Yet, almost unfortunately, it is still art. And hilariously, those who hate this idea most, who denounce modern art and defend traditional art, actually don't have that much art hanging on their walls. A train in a station is a transport device. A train placed in the white walls of an echoey art hall is simply no longer that. But you can take the way you would look at the latter and apply it to the former. And actually, it's a more beautiful way to live, because you see art everywhere, even when you're on a train. Does it make it good in an art gallery, though? Well, that's now in the unfathomable category of art, so who knows? For me, not really. Meeting the artist halfway, if I have to do too much work to feel something, it's just not very good for me. But however, if you enjoy bringing a lot of yourself to an artwork, then that's great. I would just argue that you might be going past halfway and actually being more of the artist there in that interaction than the artist. If there's nothing easier than saying you were challenging a concept. Trying to rip them down is the adolescent goal of every young activist, but it's so much harder to build them, to stand for something than against something. For we are a world divided, and it's easy to just join in throwing rocks, even if you feel that they're deserved. It may sound trite, but for all the intangibility of art, it is and always has been the most powerful in times when people are confronted with the harsher truths of life. It doesn't change the world. It never has. But it does change people, uniquely, intimately, and at times of love and loss and longing. You might miss the old who are no longer in your lives, and reassess the arrogance of your youth, and that those who you may have dismissed before may actually have something to teach you. It's no surprise that a deep, beautiful, old, wise poem is felt far more at a funeral than at a fun fair. So if you struggle with the idea of what is considered good art these days, just rest assured that simply means that we live in good times. But when the rain falls and these days are gone, you'll find you don't gain so much from bananas taped on walls and bent barriers and trains not on tracks. You might even find that some of those boring old paintings you never could quite understand start to leer at you. For no matter if you are left wing, right wing, oppressed or the oppressor, a minority or the majority, you will live your life and you will experience loss the same way as someone the other side of the world. And you will both see that loss differently. Just how you will both create different pictures in your mind from the same pages of a great novel, and string together different stories from the same great paintings. Yet the underlying threads are the same, and they tug as something that unites us. I've had a few years of love and loss, and I paint to process it all. I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly. I'm simply exploring. I can't control how you should see them or how any peer or critic does. And as I sit here painting this picture of partners and struggling with their expressions, some may see a comforted, caressed character, tenderly held in an embrace of life-affirming love, and some may see a collapsed, trapped reluctance. Others, just a clash of too many contrasting colours and crude characters in a cramped composition that does nothing for them. Am I to agree with all three? I'm simply hunting for that thread, a way for me to try and understand it, and to honour the loved and the living around me, and to say goodbye to the dead, to celebrate new life, and to honour the terrifying, blinding confusion shared by every soul in the hunt for it all. If you love art, if you are forgetting just how much it feeds you, go and see that play, that poet, that musician, that exhibition. Frame that silly napkin sketch that your friend once gave you. Surround yourself in art that speaks to you. Let go of what others say. You have to bring your own experiences, your messy, lost, self-pitying, sinful, silly self. This art of mine might not be for you, but even at its very, very best, it's half the story.